In a discussion of the trivium, grammar, logic, and rhetoric, and how it is an illustration and uses as an illustration of the three stages of how anyone of any age learns, whether you are a new Christian at age 50 and you have to start learning about facts of the Bible and why these things are there and how to apply them, or whether you're a child entering kindergarten and you have to learn your numbers and your ABCs and your shapes and your colors. The grammar stage is the time when children learn the grammar or the facts of anything. The subject is almost irrelevant, except for, of course, we want to teach them the subjects that are going to be useful to them. And in a classical methodology, mostly that's a focus upon language. If children can't talk or read or write, how are they going to be able to do anything else? You can't really be a good mathematician unless you can actually read numbers and read the equations and read mathematics, or be able to write that out so that somebody else can have it. You can't be a very good scientist if you discover something and then you can't write it down so that other people don't have to discover it all over again. You go, Eureka, I have found it! And then it dies with you. So the grammar stage is the beginning stage of learning. We recognize that this is how people begin. This is where knowledge starts. Now, of course, it begins in the fear of the Lord to have true knowledge. But when we're just talking about the basic facts, children are natural explorers, naturally curious. They naturally want to go and to learn something new. They ask the question, what, all the time. Some of you may say, oh, but my little kid, my 2-year-old, he says why a lot. In fact, I have a 1.5-year-old, and that's all he does. Say, why, Daddy? Why, Daddy? Why, Daddy? Why, Daddy? If I explain to Donald why, he doesn't stop asking why. He just keeps on asking why. And that's mostly because he learned the word why, and he learns that if he keeps on asking it, then he might not have to do what I told him to do. We're working on that. Yes, you need to do what I told you to do. He's not even necessarily asking why. He's mostly asking what. What did you say? And what do I have to do? And do I really have to do it? Which is another what question. What are you going to make me do? Or what are you going to enforce? And what kind of seriousness are you putting into this offer of sit down and eat your food and don't throw it all over the house? When children start their educational path, which is before they're born, but in a formal educational sense, Dorothy Sayers in 1937 broke up the trivium into stages of illustration and basically gave grade levels or age levels for how this would fit. She called what we would call the kindergarten to second grade stage, the pre-poly stage. And then she called the grades 3rd to 6th, the poly stage. Poly, to an English person like Dorothy Sayers, would just be a parrot. You tell the parrot something, it repeats it back to you. Here are your ABCs, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and repeat that back to me. Here are your numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Repeat that back to me. 1066, last time England was successfully invaded. When was England successfully invaded for the last time? 1066. You just repeat information. This is the process of soaking up a child's mind and their soul like you would soak water into a sponge. If you take a sponge and you try and wash a car without soaking it first with water, how effective is that going to be? Even if you squirt a little soap on the sponge first with no water, without the agent that's going to actually be effective in cleaning, how are you going to clean the car? And yet if you take the sponge and you put it in the bucket of water and you squeeze as much water as possible into it and then you put that on the car, you'll be much more effective. It's the same thing, the difference between some methods of education which are going to give a kindergartner an easel and paints and say, be creative. When the child doesn't even know how to draw yet, and yet he's expected to be creative. How can he be creative? What is he going to be creative with? First and foremost, teach the child how to draw. And then teach them the why of art forms and why art and why good art is good and why other art forms may be harmful or may not be as good. Why do we look at a child's doodle and we look at something by a famous Renaissance painter, just add any of them into there, Michelangelo, and say, this is great art? Well, why doesn't the child's art deserve to be hung into some museum or art gallery, and Michelangelo's works deserve to be hung everywhere, if you can get your hands on them? And tourists pay all sorts of money just to go and see them, because there is a difference between something that is mediocre and something that is great. But why is that? Before you even get there, teach the child what? Teach the child how to draw. Children are obviously excited about learning. They obviously want to learn new things. So fill their minds with things. Take them out. Show them the world that God has created. Show them what a plant is. Show them different plants. Show them that plants are different. Show them how to recognize different plants. Teach them history. Show them that there are different things that happen in history. Show them that different people did things, and these people did other things. And these all did things in history. They affected different things in history. Show them the facts of science. Show them the facts of language. Fill their minds so they have a foundation to continue learning. A lot of times this is done with songs. A lot of times this is done with repetition. Repetition is the key to learning, and it's most illustrated in the grammar stage when you have to repeat the information, repeat the information, repeat the information so that the child will get the information. And once the child has information, they're more likely to hold the information. Children are excited about new things. They're excited about learning. Use that. Direct that. Don't become annoyed with your child's questions of what is this and what is that. Instead, become excited that your child, created in the image of God, wants to learn something new. And you get to be, primarily as a parent, but also as a teacher, the one that guides that child through the beginning stages of knowledge. And as you lead the child into that knowledge, recognizing that the beginning of knowledge is in the fear of the Lord, you can say to yourself, I am leading my child in the beginning stage of knowledge so that the rest of their lives, they will be able to say, our God is a fearful God. Look at the wondrous works that he's created. Language created by God. Life breathed by God. A world created by God. Now, it's not the way he created. It's been destroyed by a flood. But still, look what he can create from something that's been destroyed, something that's literally just been smashed. And how much beauty do we still have? Look at the stars. They sing the praises of the Lord. They show us God's handiwork. Recognize that your children are on a quest for knowledge. Take them by the hand and fill their minds with that knowledge.